Hello, hello, and welcome to the Undead Gaming Cast. Welcome, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to our monthly podcast where we talk about video games, the industry, and stuff and/or things. I'm Rob, the Undead Gamer, and joining us as always is Mr. SingularityJosh. How you doing, buddy?
Howdy. It's been a hot minute since we've done a podcast, so glad to be back.
It has, yeah. So I suppose straight off the bat, I want to apologise for that, for our 3 month or so hiatus that we've had from the podcast. Um, I have had a lot of issues in my personal life. Things have happened, and I have not been in the best state, sort of mentally, to do anything other than just kind of crack on with my own shit. So, apologies that all of this kind of fell to the wayside, but we're back now, and hopefully you'll forgive us. And we've got shit planned. We got shit planned. So, yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome for a start. Let's give you a little rundown of how we usually run things here. So we usually start the show off by talking about what we've been up to and what we've been playing recently in video games or gaming in general. Then we move swiftly on to our news topic or news topics of the month. This month in particular is our special annual December edition where we discuss our bests and our worsts of 2020. Then we'll round stuff off by looking forward to 2021 and talking about what we're excited for. And then, of course, we finish the show by shamelessly self-promoting and plugging ourselves. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Josh, what have you been up to? What have you been playing this month?
What have I been playing this month? That's a very good question. What have I been playing this month? Video games. I've played some video games.
That's a good start. That's a good start.
Yeah. My mind just, like when somebody asks you a question, you've got an answer, and then you're expecting a question, you have the answer, and then they ask it, and your mind just goes, like that's what just happened. Yeah, we've been playing. Firstly, I'm back on the WoW train.
Again?
Uh, it's one of those games that I periodically jump in and out
You
of.
do, in fairness, yeah.
It's like I think it's just comfort food, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like you don't, unless you're like high tier like raiding. It's kind of like a Critical Role can go on in the background, and I can play something and not have to keep my brain, like my hands busy while my brain kind of does other things. So we've been playing some World of Warcraft. They've changed everything again, like everything. So like the level cap, which was like 120 last expansion, is now 60. They've like rescaled the level in and all of the like areas and stuff. We played some Phasmophobia, which is a fucking excellent game if people haven't seen this.
Yeah, I want to dive into that as well once I got the
Mate,
PC up and
once you've got
running.
once you've got the PC come in, like
Yeah.
me and you are gonna have a good
We'll
time,
have some
I think.
shenanigans, yeah. Absolutely.
Phasmophobia, Phasmophobia is fucking great. Like you play as a bunch of like ghost hunters. You have like a bunch of different like maps, about 12 different kinds of ghosts, and you basically spawn in the van, take like your EMF readers and all like the spirit writing books and whatever else out of the van, go into the house, work out like basically each piece of evidence. You need 3 pieces of evidence. Like each piece of evidence corresponds to a kind of ghost. The ghost can murder you. It's a good time, honestly. It's kind of like it is obviously it's a horror game, but it feels like a puzzle game
Hmm.
because you're doing obviously like lots of investigating and that kind of thing. Um, and we're going to speak about it at length, so I'm not. Oh, I tell you what. Before I mention the inevitable, something that I have played, and it was kind of as I was changing my PCs over. Um, was is it Immortals Phoenix Rising,
Oh yeah.
which is super good. It's a Greek mythos Breath of the Wild.
Mm.
That's kind of the closest thing,
It's got a
and
really
it
nice art style. I really like that
gorgeous.
beautiful style it's got.
Yeah, it's super gorgeous, and it feels very Breath of the Wild. And my big bone to pick with Breath of the Wild, and generally speaking, is that unless I'm playing a very specific kind of game, I don't like item durability, like weapon
Mm.
durability. I find it very annoying. Um, and like so in Breath of the Wild, you're constantly changing what you've got all the time, and it's fucking annoying. And so it basically has like all the good bits of Breath of the Wild and none of the item durability crap. So um, that's where that's at. I've played probably about 6 or 7 hours of it. It's good fun. I enjoy it a lot. And then the elephant in the room. Yes, I've played Cyberpunk. I was playing on PC, so I didn't have so many issues that it was ridiculous. Um, from what I have played of it, I have enjoyed it for the most part. I am skeptical regarding business practices and various other decisions,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to get into this a little bit more later on. So I'm not.
Yeah.
That's kind of the piece I'm saying on
I
Cyberpunk.
mean, I mean, we might as well have a discussion about Cyberpunk now. We can come to the, I suppose, our own personal experiences. We can get to the rest of it, I suppose, a little bit later. But we, hesitant to say too much and go too in depth with Cyberpunk because we are planning a episode of our bonus podcast, a bonus level specifically on Cyberpunk, so where we will go in it into it in detail. So I suppose let's just scoot over the basics, I guess. But so you've played Cyberpunk on PC. I've also played Cyberpunk on the PlayStation 4,
It's
which
so
is
funny. It is the difference between like going to the cinema to watch a movie and you hand animating a flip book like that. It's it's just night and day.
yeah, it
It's
is.
just like
It's insane.
it's night and day.
Suffice to say that it runs like shit on the PlayStation 4 to the point where you have characters who look like they're fresh out of Nintendo 64 games coming up.
The Gears of War level pops.
Yeah, like the pop in is insane. The rendering just barely there. The game just looks muddy and like horrible all the time. Doesn't look clean whatsoever. It runs like absolute shit. The frame rate drops are
Abysmal.
insane. Like literally make it unplayable.
You know
It's an
what the
embarrassment.
most shocking thing to me, like I said the most shocking thing, but like the biggest difference, like because obviously I'd played a bit of it, and then you obviously had like you had whatever time that you had allotted to stream it, so you sat up on like you set yourself up, and I was like, cool, like I've played enough of like my game to watch Rob play his introduction, you know, that kind of like Dex mission in that first little area, Hoboken or whatever the fuck the area is called. I think that's an area.
Night City.
Yeah, it's part of New York, I think, Hoboken. But you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
um, but like the biggest thing for me when I like sat there and I watched you play it was like I was expecting like obviously like lower graphical fidelity and possibly some frame issues. I wasn't expecting the pops, and Burritos just nailed it in the chat. The city is fucking
It
empty.
is. Yeah, it is. It's fucking. It's
It's
dire.
fully empty. It's awful. I
It's
mean,
dire. And you know that's also where we haven't even spoke about bugs or crashes or anything like that or glitches yet, which are annoying but kind of understandable. But to the level that they are, but you're right. The city on the PlayStation 4 and on the Xbox One version, like just any console version, is just empty. It just
I can't
doesn't
move
look.
for traffic on the PC.
Yeah,
I get gridlocked.
yeah. It's just there's no life in the city at all. Um.
That was kind of always my problem with like Fallout and Skyrim. It's
Hmm.
like oh look, these big excellent worlds where there's meant to be like literally like invading armies and stuff, and you can walk around like the world, and you just like there's like 12 people per town
Mm.
and nobody in between, and maybe a bear.
Yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean?
yeah. Like
But that's kind
barely,
of what it feels like.
barely populated, and especially when you given it all. I mean, it's a city. It's a massive, massive, sprawling metropolis city. It's meant to be full of people. And I understand there's limitations, but still, the thing that grates me the most, and this is an argument that people have been spouting around of like, oh, what do you expect for playing it on a 7-year-old system, is the
Fuck
simple
off.
fact that from day one, this game was being developed and produced for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. So, what the fuck happened? Because yes, I'm expecting it to look much better on high quality rigs and whatnot, but that argument it's bullshit, because that was what they were making the game for, was those systems. That's what they were promoting it for. They had a massive brand deal with Microsoft for the Xbox One.
They
Like,
did an exclusive Cyberpunk console for the Xbox One.
exactly. So like, what the fuck is that? It's just a irrelevant argument. It's an irrelevant argument.
So I think generally speaking, you've nailed it on the head there. I will kind of say my piece for that particular argument, which is there must have been a point where obviously, yes, they had intended to deliver it on the last gen
Yeah,
because that was what it was in development for.
yeah.
There must have been a point in development though when they realized, shit, this project is too ambitious for the hardware that we are using for whatever reason. And there should have been a point where they went, this is not up to the scratch of what people are expecting. And it probably would have done them more of a service to put their hands up 12 months ago and say, guys, we've tried really hard to get it working on the Xbox One and on the PlayStation 4, but we're just not happy with the results we're getting. We have a new generation incoming which will handle like all of the stuff much better. Unfortunately, we are just going to focus on the development of the thing that we know that the final product is going to be its best version of itself on. Like, and instead of just getting to the point of release, embargoing people literally up to release day, so people who had pre-ordered it on the PS4 didn't have an idea, and then releasing that broken mess into the wild.
I mean, this is it.
Like,
Like I said, I don't want to go too. I don't want to deep dive too much into it, because we are planning a special podcast solely about Cyberpunk where we will deep dive all of this. But Jason Schreier has released a article earlier this week or last week, basically where he's been in contact with devs from Cyberpunk and getting the real sort of scoop. And devs who were working on the game knew that this game wasn't working already January this year. Yet Cyberpunk said, yeah, ready to go. We're just polishing it up.
it's wrong, isn't it? And I do think though that it's sort of, I mean, this has kind of been happening for years. Like, you think back to 2016 with No Man's Sky, but in Hello's defense, that was basically on Sony, and Hello were like a tiny studio of like two people who had made, like, is it called Danger Joe or something? I think the game's called. It's like literally like a 2D platformer kind of affair, and they'd set out to make a game literally as big as the galaxy.
Yeah.
So versus like the much beloved developers of widely renowned masterpiece, The Witcher series. What, like, I saw somewhere, and I don't know if this is true, but like their market share, like CDPR's Project Red's market share, is higher than Ubisoft. So like, it's not just like some tiny developer from Bristol
No. But it has been
getting
plummeting.
getting their hands like in the
Yeah.
pie. And I think this is possibly a turning point where we will see some actual changes. in the way that things are done.
I mean, let's hope, because like good guy CD Projekt Red aren't good guy CD Projekt Red as much as people like to herald them as. Like, they are still a shitty game company like the others. What is important to do, though, if you are a fan of that developer and that company, like I am, I love The Witcher 3. It is my favourite game, and I'm sure that somewhere in Cyberpunk there is a good game. I do not doubt that for a second. It's just got a lot of fucking issues, and it's had a lot of shady shit behind it, and a lot of abuse as well to the devs that they've had to deal with mad amounts of crunch for this game. You know, let's not forget that they poured their heart and soul into this, the devs, and they are not to blame for this. They're not to blame for execs making shitty business and management decisions that have, well, produced this essentially. So it's you know, as fans, we should hold them to account, let them know when they've done wrong, and not defend them, as you would for anything, really.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think that probably is enough for our Cyberpunk rant. Like, I'm enjoying what I have played of it. I think it is a good game underneath a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, the actual mechanics of it are reasonably satisfying. I mean, they're nothing super new, but like combat it feels good on at least on the PC. Like the shooting feels good, the melee feels good. I actually, on both of my builds, I've gone melee.
Okay.
I was having like a shooter for my like my stream one, and then I started messing around with swords, and I was like, this is a lot of fun. So yeah, but it's a shame, really.
And that's what I said, like, all the shit aside, I'm sure there's a good game in there somewhere.
For sure.
Even when they do clean it up with bugs and stuff. You know, it's a shame, because I don't doubt their capabilities as a developer to create something amazing. They're just really fucked up here. But, you know, at least there is some, you know, if some people are enjoying it and some people are able to enjoy it, and all the power to you. And that's, oh my god, sorry, and that's fine. But yeah, it was literally unplayable on the PlayStation 4, so I have returned that.
Yeah, I was watching you, and I was just like, man. It's like I picked it up on a whim, and I'm not, like, you know me, I'm not particularly arsed by CDPR anyway. Like, you know, I've got my own personal set of issues that I spoke about the podcast before with CDPR, but I was like, you know what? See what the hype is about. I'm kind of in the mood for something sci-fi-y. And I was like, this is okay on the PC, but then to watch you, somebody who loves the developer and has been following the game for donkey's years, to kind of just like, it was almost like, you know, that like bit in The Simpsons when it's like, and you can pinpoint the moment exactly where his heart breaks, and it was kind of a bit like that, just watching you just be like, excited. Oh no.
You know, and it's not that I did still pick this up with a level of skepticism, because like we've discussed on the podcast, they've had a track record of some very anti-trans rhetoric, which can't be
reinforced itself in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and can't be excused anymore, because like I said, there's a track record of it. So, you know, there was that as an issue, but I did want to see to the extent that this sort of stuff made it into the game, and how it got into the game, or how they dealt with it in the game. And obviously, like I said, the business practices with the mandatory crunch periods, which have been insane. Bearing in mind as well, I think not long after The Witcher 3 was released and they'd finished with it and they'd really started focusing on Cyberpunk, they did make a public statement saying that they will not do crunch for Cyberpunk. Unfortunately, they've been crunching for about 2 years at this point, give or take a couple of months. So yeah,
and we'll still end up with that.
Yeah.
Which is like you say, not the developer's fault. It's fully the fault of the people who make business decisions for the company.
Absolutely.
Well, I use the phrase business decisions with a touch of skepticism, but you know, they were making choices.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like I said, unfortunately, it was totally unplayable for me. I mean, I gave it what I could, but it's just unplayable. But at the very least, it's been a relatively enjoyable experience for you, Josh. So that's
Yeah.
really good. Like I said, good game in there somewhere, just buried by all the shit.
It just turns out that you need to be able to run it on like Ultra RTX or whatever to actually get the most out of it. But
Yeah.
which is a shame in itself, honestly, because it should, like you say, run on anything that it was released for. And obviously not necessarily always to the highest level of graphical fidelity or whatever.
Yeah.
But it should at least resemble the product that we were shown 7 years ago at E3, or
Absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. So it's probably a good place to sort of leave it there. We will probably be talking about CDPR and Cyberpunk a little bit later on as well. But like I said, don't want to go too much into it because we will be dedicating an entire episode of the podcast to talking about CDPR and Cyberpunk 2077, hopefully coming out to you next week. That's what I've got in mind, but we will keep you updated on that. So, if that's all you've been playing, Josh.
I think it is. I've covered Phoenix, I've covered Phasmo, I've covered WoW, I've covered Cyberpunk. I don't think there's anything I've super got my teeth stuck into that I'm not going to talk about in a little while, but it's not video game related, so.
Awesome. Well, my turn, I guess. So I have had a slightly weird couple of months, but I think earlier this month or sort of late November decided to start playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a RPG made by Warhorse Studios and published by Deep Silver. Came out in 2018, I think, and they basically made a sprawling open world RPG set in medieval Bohemia, which is a sort of interesting time period to set it. But they've really done their job to make it as sort of realistic as possible. And as an RPG itself, there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's certainly not user-friendly or... and they've certainly sort of removed a lot of quality of life stuff that a lot of games remove. They've left stuff in that you would normally take out. For example, you have a hunger meter and stuff like that. So you have to make sure you're well fed and well rested and all that sort of thing. So usually it's those sort of things that games usually remove because it's a bit of an annoyance and not everyone wants to do them. Also, you sort of start the game off as a peasant. You're a peasant child, boy, man, and you're sort of thrown into this war in this world to avenge your dead family. And being a peasant boy, a blacksmith's boy, you are shit at everything. You don't know anything. You don't know how to fight. You don't know how to do anything, hunt, whatever it is. So it's got quite a steep learning curve, the game. But the more you do stuff, the better stuff you get. It's certainly not an easy game to sort of wrap your head around. It certainly takes a little bit of perseverance to get through and try and work out, and everything's quite methodical and mechanical in how it works, but it's certainly not for everyone. I'm probably explaining this game and it sounds awful, but I'm enjoying it. Story-wise, very good, and yeah, mechanically there's a lot of moving parts. Like I said, a lot of levels, a lot of stats to up and work on and
Quick
whatnot.
question then. So you say you've obviously got like your food meter and your sleep meter or whatever. Sleep is easy because it's like probably sleep in a bed and sleep like 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to eat like a balanced? Do you know what I mean? Is it at that point where it's like a balanced diet, or is it like the Skyrim approach of like here's 50 wheels of cheese? Like,
I think you can do that. You could just down 50 wheels of cheese, but depending on what you eat, if you're eating a full meal or just like a bit of chicken or something, everything's got its own sort of nourishment value. So if you're eating a big meal, that's obviously got a higher nourishment value than just a leg of chicken, for example. So if you were just to eat a leg of chicken, you would have to eat more and more and more, rather than a full meal will kind of set you up for the day, sort of thing. But obviously the detrimental effect of being tired or not having enough nourishment is that it affects your base stats. Your energy decreases, your stamina decreases, and some of your stats are lessened. So you're just not as competent as you would be in real life. So like I said, a lot of games would just sort of remove that aspect of the game, and it's not a case of like, I'm going to eat this leg of chicken to heal up. Healing takes time. Healing is something that you either have to go to a doctor or a bathhouse or whatever it is, or rest up to regain your health. And if you're bleeding, you then have to obviously apply a bandage, but you can't do any of that whilst you're in combat. You can't just sort of like down a quick health potion or whatever it is. That shit doesn't exist. So it's very difficult in certain respects and interesting. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, you talk about like hunger and stuff being removed from the games. Like that honestly sounds fine to me, because I have played, and in all fairness, it's a survival-esque kind of deal.
Yeah.
I've played a survival game which tracks your individual vitamin needs.
Wow. Yeah, try doing that in like medieval Bohemia. That would be very interesting.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. I spent 2 hours running around with Minty being like, I need something that gives me vitamin A3. Like, honestly awful. Honestly awful. I died of like a vitamin A3 deficiency.
Oh my
Terrible.
god, yeah, no, that's wow, that's insane.
Crazy.
So yeah, certainly not to that level. But yeah, but the one of the most interesting things about it is obviously it's an RPG, so you can play how you want. If you want to be a knight or knightesque, get your plate, get your sword and shield, whatever it is you can play. If you want to be an archer, do that. If you want to be a little bit of a thief, bit sneaky, that's absolutely an option for you. There's an array of different weapons, different play styles, all of it, and lots of different levels and stats that you can use to make your build how you want, which is really cool, as you would expect from any RPG. So it's very much got a few Elder Scrolls-ish vibes to it in that respect. Armor is insanely expensive, and if you want to get yourself a full set of plate, like you're looking at a lot of money. So yeah, everything's got especially from coming from like peasantry, everything's got quite a steep learning curve and quite a steep uphill climb to get there. But the level of sort of progress and achievement you feel once you get things down and you start making moves and making waves in the world, it's fairly akin to how I feel about Bloodborne or Soulsborne games in a lot of respects, which is cool. There's you feel like you're really progressing, which is nice. And
I guess I was going to ask you another question as well. So you started peasantry then. So how do you is your social standing increased by like doing like quests and such, or is it like more of a like your like if you do good in the town, or like how does that aspect of the game work, and kind of like what is like do you know what the highest status you can achieve is?
Yeah, so you have a reputation, and you have reputation in different areas of the kingdom as well, and that obviously gets boosted up with quests, things that you do for people or for nobles or whatnot. That increases, and obviously your reputation as a result can go down as well. So if you're caught stealing, or you're caught murdering, or doing something shifty or shady, or even you make a decision that a noble or a quest giver doesn't quite like, then perhaps that you can lose reputation in general that way. So for example, I could have been sent out to apprehend a thief and bring them back to the bailiff and bring back the thing that they stole, but perhaps I chose to kill that thief and bring back the thing. So because I didn't bring back the thief and the thing, I might lose a bit of reputation because they'd have been like, it would have been better if you'd have brought the guy back because then we could have served justice. But you did what you set out to do, so thank you. So, things like that. And obviously, like I said, you start out as a peasant, but you very quickly become under the service of a nobleman who sort of who owned and ruled your small little township, essentially.
Yeah, he was like a thane or whatever.
Yeah, so you're basically in service of this guy, and you are making waves and trying to be as useful as possible in different ways to them and to anyone you come across, essentially. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so certainly very interesting. And the combat as well, they've really tried to sort of hone in on a sort of realistic HEMA style accurate combat system. They apparently, when they were developing it, they were studying things with HEMA instructors to really try and get some historical accuracy in its combat. So essentially you've got a reticle and you have to sort of position your sword where you're going to hit the person on their body, and also timing your blocks well and that sort of thing, and as you're hitting as well, you can't just sort of spam attacks because you've got your stamina to take into consideration as well, which you lose really quickly. You can lose it by hitting, you can lose it by being hit yourself. Combat is quite difficult, quite the thing to wrap your head around, but once you do, it's quite enjoyable. There's quite a methodology to it, and it's fun. So
it reminds me it sounds a little bit like The Last Kingdom, like the Saxon stories, like that kind of. It gives me a lot of that kind of vibe, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play that because I fucking love those books.
Yeah, no, it was a great series as well. If you've watched the series, it's really good.
I watched a little bit of it, but it was like a little bit too different to the books for my liking.
Yeah,
I just found myself screaming at the TV, being like, "That's not what happened."
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think if you find it cheap, if you think it might be something worth your time, like I said, it's a bit of a steep learning curve. There's a lot of moving parts to it. It's probably something similar to, if you've got the patience for something like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, it might be up your alley. It might be up your alley. So, I mean, if you find it cheap online,
I'm just checking my Steam library now.
During a sale, it might be worth your time. Yeah, it might be worth your time. So yeah, there's certainly a lot to get involved in with it, and I'm really enjoying it. That's kind of what I'm playing in my downtime, to be honest, and I'm really enjoying it.
Sweet. What else you playing, dude?
So what else are we playing? We just started playing Sinking City on the stream this week, which is a Lovecraftian game, or Lovecraft inspired game by I can't think of the developer, so if you could find that out for me, Josh, that'd be amazing. If you don't mind, thank you. But yeah, that came out, I think, last year or the year before.
It's 2000 I was about to say 2019. 2019.
Cool.
Developer is Frogwares, publishers by Big Ben and H2.
There you go. Yeah, so actually came out the same year, I think, as that Call of Cthulhu game by Cyanide.
They came out at a very similar time, because I remember being like, is this that game?
Yeah, so there was like, a lot of confusion.
I wasn't sure if they were the same game or if they were two different ones.
Yeah, so I played Call of Cthulhu earlier this year on stream on the channel, and it was okay. That was the game that was very much based on the Chaosium tabletop role-playing game, which I've a fair amount of experience in, and I really fucking like that game. And I could see where they're taking inspiration, but for the most part, it was a very linear, this is what you do, this is where you go. The Sinking City plants you in a place called Oakmont, which is a city that has had a natural disaster recently happen to it, hence why it is sinking. So a lot of it, you have to traverse sort of like rivers that were streets, and it is essentially a sprawling open world city that is... you go about and be a detective, essentially. It's somewhat of an RPG as well, as you sort of like put points into different stats and make your sort of detective build, as it were. Pick up different investigations, investigate them. And honestly, I've played for, I think, about 2-3 hours maybe. And that the Sinking City, although it's just based on the works of Lovecraft, is far more like the Chaosium tabletop role-playing game than the Call of Cthulhu, which was based on the Chaosium tabletop role-playing game.
I was about to say, like, just as an aside, I was like, Froggrass. I was like, what does that name a bell? And actually, no wonder it feels very like tabletop, because obviously at the tabletop, like in D&D, like you're like a hero or whatever, but like you're an investigator in Call of Cthulhu, aren't you? And no wonder it feels so tabletop-y, because it's the people that make the Sherlock Holmes games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
actually, like that, I'd imagine that vibe lends itself, like that style of game making lends itself super well to the like Lovecraft universe.
Absolutely. And it very much doesn't hold your hand either. Um, this game. So you are, when I say it's an investigation game, you are kind of having to do your own investigation. It's not like you just sort of go and talk to NPCs, ask them certain questions, maybe you get the right answer, then you carry on, and then the quest log updates. If you've got a hunch or a piece of the case or a clue that perhaps someone left a scene and they were bleeding, so you assume they've gone to the infirmary, they've gone to the hospital. Perhaps you go there. The doctor's not very helpful. He's too busy. So you go and look at the infirmary logs, and you have to piece together the clues that you have to find out if said person was there.
Checked in there.
Yeah. So for example, you might know that they had an axe wound to their arm, and they're a male, and that they came in recently, or they came in from the port. So it will be those like three. You have three options that you can sort of put in to try and get an answer, and you can keep doing this, but those are like the three sticking points. So it would be like they came from the port, they needed surgery because it was quite a wound, and they came at this time or around about this time, and then it will pop up with the right person, the right answer, or whatever, what have you. So you've really got to like use your brain to try and narrow things down and understand what's going on, and essentially solve the cases and crack them, which I think is really, really cool, really interesting. I've not played an investigation game that's like this, so that I'm really enjoying. Combat,
Maybe the Sherlock Holmes games are something for you to look into in the future. Then, if you like
yeah, possibly,
thing.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the combat is a little bit dodgy, not the best, but I think we'll get there. I did end up diving into a alley that had a bunch of Lovecraftian nonsense in it, which I could not fight. So I think that's a little bit too highbrow for me at the moment. But we'll get there. But yeah, just
what's the deal with it then? Is it just clunky? Is it kind of like very? Is it a bit like you were saying with Deliverance? Like it'll just take some getting used to? Is it just not particularly like intuitive? Like what's the deal with it?
It's a bit clunky, and I don't think it's very intuitive. I don't think it's a case of like Kingdom Come Deliverance, where it does work, but you've got to work out how it works. This is just clunky. So, for example, you could be aiming, which is clunky in and of itself, and then shoot, but the thing you're aiming at moves instantly out the way. So it's not, that is understandable. Your target will move, and that's fine. That's not my complaint here. It's just that the combat sort of it doesn't quite work well, and it's not very intuitive in that I can aim at the thing and take a shot off. I'm not a terrible shot when it comes to shooting games. I mean,
relatively speaking,
yeah, relatively speaking. But yeah, this game is yeah, just a little bit clunky, and it doesn't help.
Third-person combat.
Yeah,
it is first-person combat.
Third person. Yeah. It also doesn't help that your resources are limited as well. So you're crafting your ammunition, you're crafting your health packs, you're crafting all of this, and you're trying to find these elements to get those, ingredients to make like shell casing, gunpowder, and that sort of thing. and those are in limited supply as well that you go about and discover around the world. So it's
Sounds very Lovecraft, that does, though. Like,
oh,
limited
absolutely,
resources.
yeah. And like I said, like
Combat is not a good thing. Like, yeah.
yeah. Best to be avoided if possible. And this is why I said like it's certainly one of those things that, to me, in my experience with the tabletop role playing game, it feels like the tabletop role playing game completely. You know, you'll start your investigation. You'll go down the leads of the investigation. You will go to the library once you find another lead, because perhaps there's an article or a book that you need to research more of, or you'll go to the newspaper, see if they've written a recent article about something that happened down in the port because you're investigating down there, or whatever it is. So it's extremely like how the sort of tabletop kind of runs, essentially, is that you get your case, you start your investigation, you go down the lines of investigation, you go to different locations to follow up leads or whatever. Yeah, it just feels like the tabletop, which is really, really cool, I think.
Cool.
So yeah, really enjoying it. And yeah, we'll keep playing that on the channel. Other than that, we started Grim Fandango as well, which was fun. I've not had the sort of desire to sort of jump back into it, really. It's definitely one of those that I was enjoying a lot more playing with my stream, with the chat. So yeah, it's funny. It's a really fun game.
It's well written for sure.
It's definitely well written. Yeah, and that's one of the things. I'm not sure I'm a fan of point and click.
No, I don't like point and click either, but it's funny.
But that's it. That's what kind of makes me want to go back to it. So and you know, it is one of those classics. So yeah,
But also, like, it's very funny as well. Like, I know that they were doing their best, but like, let's be real, the game does look like shit, and like, it is so funny to like see like old like sprites and stuff, like that fucking, you know, the massive driver dude who's like 6 times bigger than the cab, and it's just like a big blob on top. Like, it just looks so funny.
Yeah, it's definitely got its charm. It's definitely got its perks.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, aside from that, I suppose, yeah, same as you, buddy. We've been playing some tabletop, haven't we? We've been doing some Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing the Witcher tabletop role playing game on the side, like as I have been every week. So yeah, good fun times all round, I guess.
Yeah. Shout out to like, well, we're breaking up for the holidays, but shout out to Kirk, who's running a game where we actually managed to play together.
Yeah,
which is really nice.
Yeah, we've Lord knows we tried a few times.
No, we got there though.
We did, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's basically it for me. Shall we dive into our main news topic?
Yeah, for sure.
So, now's the time for us to discuss the news topic, or the main topic of today's podcast. So, this is our annual end of year December show where we discuss the best, the worst of gaming in 2020. Now, these are sort of personal to us. So if yours doesn't pop on there or whatever, sorry, I guess.
Tough shit.
But yeah, like we're just having an open discussion about what we felt were the best and worst moments for us personally in gaming in 2020. So I suppose let's start things off with the doom and gloom, and let's start things off with our worsts, shall we? Josh, do you want to bring something to the table?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it, so I'm gonna just mention it, and then we'll move on to something we can actually have a bit more of a substantial discussion about, which I think is probably fair. Big disappointment in Cyberpunk. Big disappointment in the way that rolled out. Big disappointment in their fucking continuation of fucking anti-trans rhetoric. Fucking sick of it. Fully annoyed about it. That's kind of where I'm at with Cyberpunk. It was a fucking mess. It shouldn't have been released as it was. And then to double down on like tying your pronouns to your voice, even if you have a different like aesthetic body, and not providing a non-binary option as well. fuck off. Like, just give me a menu where I can just select a voice and select my pronouns. Just do it. It's not fucking hard. The character's already called V. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't change anything. It's not like you have to change like every dialogue option in the game. It's just he, she, they. Just do the thing.
I think one thing I did see on Twitter with regards to that is I think that Jackie refers to you as brother or sister depending on the quote unquote gender that you pick, right? And people were saying, oh, why, stick a non-binary option in there. And people say, oh yeah, but that would have been an extra dialogue tree or whatever. It's like, well, why don't you just have had fucking non-binary option from the beginning and just have
I'm
it?
also
Have that as the
100%
default.
certain. I'm 100% certain that at some point Jackie calls you buddy. Just fucking splice it in.
Buddy, partner,
pal,
pal,
whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So then you don't have to have these gender-specific terms, and it's cyberpunk. Non-binary
Which is just the most...
is like the default in that sort of genre of thing, right? Like, do you know what I mean? There's kind of no need to have a masculine or feminine, male, female, whatever option, if in terms of pronouns or whatever.
You want to know something else that actually kind of bothers me a little bit as well? Is that, like, it is very not punk to be given tasks to perform by the police department.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not like those two forces are diametrically opposed to each other almost.
Yep.
Like, that's like, and I do sort of understand a tiny bit because in like the old books from like the 80s or whatever, like, and I presume it is to cater to the audience of like, I want to be Judge Dredd. There is a like police subclass role, I think they're called in the game. But it just seems weird that like if you pick to be this like rough and tumble kid from the streets, it just doesn't thematically match up.
It doesn't make sense. It should absolutely be an option because it's a role-playing game. It's an RPG and it's based on the tabletop. So it should absolutely be an option if that's what you want to do. But it shouldn't be like something that is open to everyone or open to everyone regardless of how they're playing their game. Do you know what I mean?
And it's kind of unavoidable of doing those missions as well.
And that's what I mean.
Because they're a provider of like items and money, which obviously it's an RPG. You need your gear, you need your money. See,
I didn't realize it was like you had to.
Yeah, they're like I'm trying to think of like something that it'd be like. So obviously, like, you've got like your quests, stuff that you do with like Dex or Jackie, whatever, and then you've got your jobs, who are provided by fixers, which are like smaller, almost side questy. Like, here's the information, here's your bounty, go. And then on the mini map, there's like there'll be like a little baseball bat, and it's like assault in progress.
Yeah,
and like you just go to them and like kill everybody there basically, and then it gives you money, and and those are the police jobs, which also I'm pretty sure is not how law enforcement works. Like, I'm pretty sure that if like I'm pretty sure if well, maybe not in America, but I'm pretty sure that if an officer of the law in the UK knocked up to an assault and beat the guy to death,
oh yeah,
like that, they would not be getting their paycheck at the end.
Just saying, you said, I'm not sure that's how law enforcement works. I mean, in the US,
in America,
if anything, this year
it is
like,
fully how that works in America.
But yeah, like, it's really fucking weird. That's
seems
really weird that is like that you have to do that. Yeah, because you're right.
I think it fully makes sense. Maybe if you take like the corporate background or something, like where you're a bit more kind of like
you're working for the man,
law and order and organization.
Yeah.
But to be like either like a nomad or to be like a street kid and like having to do jobs for the police just seems a bit weird. It just feels weird.
And also, presumably, you're doing these jobs for the police and going to kill these gangs or whatever who are anti-establishment gangs, anarchy, anti-police, in a world that inherently boils down to you being anti-establishment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
seems weird.
Really...
just a weird choice.
Yeah, that'll stick it to the man, helping the man by killing those that are trying to fuck the man. Yeah, cyberpunk. Woo. Yeah, good job, CDPR. Good job. I'm glad you really understood the genre that you were.
No, I don't mean, to be fair. In all fairness to CDPR, that is an option in the old ass books.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It should be an option.
Like, it is an option,
but it's not an option in the game.
It shouldn't be it shouldn't be an option for like every background to do them. I don't think. Like, you get your 3 like backgrounds at the start or whatever. Like, it shouldn't be an option for all of them. Like, if you wanted to do it, like, you just do those things, but provide them like via fixers.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Insane. So yeah,
that's
totally understandable.
That's kind of my piece on Cyberpunk, because
our second piece,
and I don't want to get into a third, otherwise we're not going to have a podcast to do next week.
Absolutely. So yeah,
I think we share our other worst as well. Like, we both shared the worsts, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So do you want to start this one off, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of chime in.
So another worst of 2020 for myself and for Josh is the disgusting sexual misconduct and harassment that went on and is still ongoing. This hasn't gone away, even though they want it to, and they don't mention it, and nobody's really talking about it anymore. The disgusting sexual misconduct that has been going on at Ubisoft for the last 10 years that has only really sprung to light properly, publicly this year. Now, we discussed this a lot on the podcast. I think that we had spent a couple of episodes.
We did an entire episode on it.
And honestly, had I been able to continue the podcast the last couple of months, we would have brought it up again and again and again, because every month there has been something else developing in that sphere. So, yes, for those that don't know, many higher-ups at Ubisoft have been caught out and accused of numerous accounts of sexual misconduct from, my goodness, it's fucking so much of it, misogynistic behaviour, homophobic behaviour, sexual assault,
we're talking
harassment.
Like, just to give you some like actual like IRL examples, and obviously a content warning if this sort of stuff is bothersome to you. Stuff like putting pornography on like work computers with your colleagues there, board or gate development meetings held at strip clubs, like inappropriate touching and that kind of thing, and then
inappropriate comments about what women are wearing.
Yeah, and then and then going to HR or equivalent and basically just being told, well, fuck off.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's not just and it's not just like one incident or one individual. It is again and again and again and again, and it is this like boys club of like 6 or 7 people right at the top.
And this has been going on for 10 years. 10 years this has been going on at Ubisoft. And on top of that, you've had homophobic rhetoric, transphobic rhetoric, misogynistic rhetoric, racial rhetoric. And did we mention that one of the game CEOs drugged members of their team?
Oh yeah, no, we didn't mention that.
Yeah. So yeah, Ubisoft, scum developer, basically, who have got no problem sexually abusing their staff members. It's a really worrying time, and I feel for all the people that work there who are there because that's their job, and feel threatened or unsafe there. They did recently an anonymous questionnaire about how people feel working at Ubisoft, and there was an awful lot of people that just did not feel safe at their own workplace, which is disgusting.
And I know that like there is obviously going to be a dickhead out there that plays devil's advocate and it's just like, well, why don't they go get a job elsewhere if they're good enough to work for Ubisoft? Like, some people just, you know, it's a tough time. Like, this year's been tough. Like, it's hardly like fucking jobs are flying around in even like the most key of fields, let alone something that is seen as like a luxury or like a hobby space. Like,
And creative industries are tough to
also
get
like,
into. Even if you're
yeah,
already
also
in them, they are tough to keep going, keep doing things. And
Also
especially,
imagine like if somebody's pitched a game and you are part of the team and you like your like immediate colleagues and you are proud to work on a project that you've been wanting to work on that sounds good to you, that is cool for you to like get in and work on, it should not be ruined by somebody who just can't fucking behave themselves like a normal person. Like, it is not the person's fault. It is these individuals that are going out of their way to act.
and can I also point out something that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, sort of just off the point of what I was saying about jobs in the creative industries that they're hard to come by and get anyway, even if you're already in that industry. Trust me, I know. But the gaming industry, for how big it is financially, is very small. It's a very small industry, and a lot of people know each other, and word moves about. And the way that a lot of these victims of this abuse were made out to seem within the company, they were made out to seem as troublemakers. Victims of abuse were made out to seem as troublemakers. So if that information is leaked, so yeah, say blah blah left Ubisoft and they wanted to work for EA or whoever, EA might not take them on because they've heard, oh, weren't you a bit of a troublemaker though at Ubisoft? So that's the problem. It's quite a toxic environment and a toxic
Yeah, it's quite and like most creative industries, like obviously Rob's background is in like theatre, my background is in music. They're quite incestuous industries as
yeah,
well. Like
like I
he
said.
said, she said, he said, you
Yeah,
said, and all of a sudden nobody will look at you.
yeah, like I said.
Like,
It's very easy to become blacklisted in some of these industries, regardless of what you've done or if it's your fault, because the people who hold all the keys, who hold all the strings, have a lot of power. And the problem is with Ubisoft, this goes so far up the chain that the people that run the company, that own the company, the family that own the company, Yves Guillemot, he was friends with all of these abusers. He was friends with them. So the rot that's inside Ubisoft is not going to leave until that family fucks off, but that won't happen.
yeah, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like, if you're lining your pockets with that much money, then there's no way you're relinquishing it.
Absolutely. So fuck the rape company, Ubisoft. So that's all I've kind of got to say on it, really.
Yeah, I think you've put that very succinctly, very like nail on the head. Yeah, I don't feel good about it, but I feel like you have said what you need to say about that. So can we talk about some nice stuff?
Absolutely.
Unless you've got anything bad, unless you've got something else bad to add.
No, I don't think so. That I will happily discuss better things and better topics. So, without further ado, let us discuss our bests of 2020 in gaming. Now, look, y'all, 2020 has been a fucking rough, weird, awful, shitty year for one reason or another, affecting us all differently in different ways, personally and on a larger scale. But we've been through it, and man, you know, there's been some light in this year, and that's what we're hopefully going to celebrate now. So, Josh, some of your bests.
Sure. Right. So, I think me and Rob have got another joint conversation we want to have in terms of positivity. Something that I want to bring to the table, probably on my own. I don't believe Rob has played this game. Shout out to Supergiant Games, who have developed and released Hades, which is just a mind-blowingly gorgeous game. Like, I quite like a roguelike, and I like a Soulsborne kind of vibe. Like I like the challenge of like you die, you learn, you do it better next time. Like I enjoy that kind of like loop. Not for everybody, but I really enjoy it. So Hades is a game where you play as, I think his name's Zafriel. I think it's Zafriel. And you are the son of Hades. You Persephone has left the underworld, and basically nobody will tell you like where she is, and you basically want to escape hell and kind of see the mortal realm. So your dad doesn't want to let you do that. So you go to like I can't remember what the first zone is, but you literally go to like Tartarus and like Elysium Fields and like all these like very like iconic places from like Greek mythology. Like the Greek gods aid you in the form of boons. They send like boons down, so like you can like if you side a lot, if you like see like Zeus a lot, your like attacks deal like thunder damage and that kind of thing. And basically your goal is to escape hell. And then if you die, you get sent back by the river Styx, reincarnated, and then like the way that the loop works is it doesn't start with like it's not like start the game, you die, and you're kind of back at square one. What happens is like you say you get to Tartarus, and then you'll go back, and then you'll like talk to like a figure from like mythological history. So I can't remember his name. Fuck me. But like I know that like so like Achilles, sorry, is like your mentor. He's the one that taught you how to fight. So you could go you could go find Achilles in like the halls of Hades and have a conversation with him, and he'll say, "Oh, you got to Tartarus last time." Oh, and then he will like comment on something. Oh, it's Hypnos. Hypnos always talks to you. When you die, he always says like, "Oh, like that killed you? Weird," or whatever. Like, and it happens every time you die. And the idea is that you eventually like collect enough XP, level yourself up. There's like bosses, so you fight like you fight a Hydra, you fight the Furies. Um, I'm just like totally. Oh, you fight like the Minotaur as a boss. So there's lots of like these really like nice little iconic bits of like Greek mythology. Soundtrack's gorgeous, game is gorgeous. Fucking just and the art style's brilliant. And it's not just like one way to play. There's like 8 different weapons. So you start with a sword, and then as you earn more points, you can unlock like a bow and do like ranged runs, and then like a spear, and then a shield, and whatever. And they're all like mythologically famous weapons. So like the shield is Aegis, which is the shield of Athena, stuff like that. Fucking amazing.
Just I've heard nothing but good stuff about Hades.
So good, so good.
Nothing but good stuff. Like literal contender of Game of the Year.
It's absolutely my Game of the Year.
And it's kind of, it's no surprise. Like Supergiant Games have just gone from strength to strength to strength with like Bastion, Transistor, Pyro, and now Hades. Like they're probably one of the best smaller developers out there by far. So
just that fucking hand drawn. It's common across all their games, but like that fucking hand drawn style is just. Oh.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous,
and it's fully voice acted as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Fully voice acted. Like everybody that you speak to has a like. Like every god that you speak to, every NPC that you speak to, fully voiced. Amazing. So that's my like positive of the year, that we got Hades and that we got to Tartarus Asphodel Elysium. That's what my sister's just said in the chat. Well done.
Awesome.
So yeah, and it's fucking so good, and I'm pretty sure the game will probably run on a toaster. Honestly, it doesn't look that graphically, like it doesn't look super duper like CPU intensive. So even if your machine isn't super good, I'm sure it'll run, and it's so worth it. And it's just like, yeah, I've played like 40 hours of it, which is like.
It wouldn't surprise me if that game goes to Switch at some point, because that sounds.
It's on Switch.
Oh, it is. Oh, there you go.
Pretty sure it's already.
So I bet that's perfect on Switch.
Pretty sure it's on Switch already. I think it came out 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 6th of December. Oh, actually, that might be for something else. Hang on. Yeah, it's been on Switch for a while though, by the looks of things.
Fair.
Scored a bunch of 100s. Nintendo World Report,
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo Dojo, Gaming Bible 100.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise. Like I said, I've heard nothing but good stuff about Hades.
Fucking super duper good. Highly recommend to anybody, especially yeah, especially like if you like your Greek mythology like I do. I'm a mythology queer, like it's one of the archetypal queers. I'm a mythology queer. So yeah, I fucking just like everything about that game is gorgeous.
Awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. Really glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play some on stream. I've decided. I've
Yeah,
just decided now. I'm gonna
yeah.
play some on stream this
Do
weekend.
it. You can find that at twitch.tv/SingularityJosh. So yes, I suppose for me, one of my best for this year was 100% Final Fantasy VII Remake. 100% Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've still not finished it, life and stuff. But my God, what an amazing, wonderful surprise that game was to actually be good and enjoyable and fun and kind of bring back a little bit of that love for the original and respect it so much, in my opinion. Um, it was a masterfully done remake. And, it's not the whole game, where we are waiting for more installments, more parts of it. But from what we got, really impressed, really, really happy we got it. And really pleased we got it to the standard that it was at. Not to mention any names, but, a game that was severely hyped for this year as well. Square Enix came out on top with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Very, very happy.
I don't fuck with Final Fantasy. It's a pretty well known fact I don't fuck with Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But I tell you, man, like just when that game, like watching how much seeing how much you enjoyed it, and like seeing like all of the different options for play, certainly piqued my interest as well. I would definitely like to play the remake and see how I get on with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because I think the other thing as well with it as well is that like there is a modern Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy 15 or whatever. I'm sure I would probably have been more into, but like there's something so iconic about Seven, like Cloud and Tifa, and who are all this whole cast of characters that's like almost like central to like geek culture.
Yeah, so iconic it hurts. Like everyone knows Final Fantasy VII. Whether you think it's the best Final Fantasy game in the series, I personally do not. But it's so iconic, it's ridiculous, and it spawned a whole generation. It came out at the right time on the PlayStation 1. Like, there's a whole generation of kids growing up that played Final Fantasy VII and grew up with that game, and then furthered on to love this franchise. And this franchise means so much to so many people for different reasons, and it does to me as well. And for them to have done this remake and done it super well, added to it, done nothing but add to it as well, because there's so much media as well about Final Fantasy VII. It's not just that base game from the PlayStation 1. There's been spin-off games, there's been movies, there's been books, there's been all anime, all sorts.
I must admit, I actually genuinely really like that movie, and I know I probably shouldn't, but I do actually really like
Advent
it.
Children is a terrible film. It's not a terrible film. But yeah, like there's been so...
I like both of them, honestly. I like Spirits Within as well, which is yeah,
man. But yeah, so like it's I think Squeenix did an exceptional job, and I look forward to them going forward with the rest of the parts of this remake. And man, that combat system as well. I was really nervous about the combat system because obviously modern Final Fantasies, they're really wanting to up this realistic, quick combat that isn't turn-based. I love the old turn-based stuff, but they ain't gonna do it anymore. Times are changed, y'all, so they're not fucking with it. But what
It is
they
also in there though, isn't it? Like it is an option that you can do
not
that turn-based thing, can't you?
not to the extent I thought it was. It's sort
Right.
of in there, but not to the extent I thought it was initially. But yeah, what they've done with the combat is by far the best modern, I think, combat system in a Final Fantasy they've ever done. It's just got the right amount of like quick, fast-paced combat that they want to show off and utilize, but also with the opportunity to take a step back a little bit, take a little bit of a breather whilst things are still moving, and really plan out your attacks. They've still got the ATB system, which is the active time battle system, which I think Final Fantasy VII started. I know they were doing. No, I think it was Final Fantasy IV maybe that did that. Anyway, but the classic sort of ATB system, they've reworked it into this fast-paced, fluid, moving combat, action-based combat system, and they've done it exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. I'd love for them to just use that for future Final Fantasies. Don't think it'll be the case, sadly, for like Final Fantasy 16, but there we are. But I hope at the very least they stick with this combat system for the rest of the 7 remake, because it's mighty good.
It would be a very strange decision to implement a system and then just like immediately scrap it in something that is like part of that same bubble. Do you know what I mean? Like I know that obviously like the difference between like Final Fantasy like 6, 8, 9 or whatever is like very different. But like if they've done something for 7, I think it would be a weird decision to go out of the bubble for like 7 Part 2. Do you know what I mean? Like that seemed like you'd keep it all the same for that.
I see your logic. But I raise you Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X-2. Which were similar, but they had like a whole dress sphere system. They did some different shit with it. So it wouldn't surprise me if they change it.
Wasn't that dress up kind of like simulator part of 10-2? Like wasn't that like more of like an added mechanic to an already base?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a complete overhaul. It wasn't the difference between like 12 and 15.
Yeah. It was essentially their class system, because you only had 3 characters in 10-2, whereas you had an array of characters for the original 10, which all had their own classes, which you could swap out there and there. So that was to sort of make up for the class system essentially. But yeah, so 7 remake, man, fucking. I really enjoyed playing that game. And do you know what, Josh? It ran really fucking well on my base PlayStation 4 from
yes, it did.
2013.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of games that came out this year run pretty well on a base PS4.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
The Last of Us 2 ran great.
I have that game. Do you know what else I've run, which I think you have as well on your base PlayStation 4? Red Dead Redemption 2.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, run really well.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
But we're doing positive things.
Positive things. Well, we are talking positive things, Josh. We're talking about positively what games that are showing the best of a system that are running on 7-year-old hardware. You can't be more positive than that.
Man, fucking Spider-Man. What a great game.
Phenomenal game.
I think I played that this year as well. What a fucking great game.
Absolutely. Played that on stream. Very much enjoyed it. My word. I really want to play Miles Morales.
And get the fucking, seeing like the fucking Sinister Six and everything. Like, super good.
Yeah.
Getting the band. I was a bit worried I wasn't worried for a while, but I was like, where's this going? And then that happened, and I was like, yo!
We're getting the band back together.
I was like, man, like this is my 90s cartoon dream.
Fuck yeah, Sinister Six, y'all. So yeah, I think that's my best of 2020. That's your best of 2020. We kind of had a shared one that we wanted to sort of briefly talk about, I think, didn't we? Just in terms of life in general. Like we said, this year has been a fucking weird one and has taken us away from friends, family in quite the most horrific way. Understandably so. We've all had to do our bit with what's going on in the world with a global pandemic, but it doesn't mean it hasn't been any easier doing it for the reasons that we've had to. It's been a tough year for everyone all round, but in some ways we've still managed to connect with the people that we love or the people that we would be normally hanging out with. And one of the things that myself and Josh really enjoy doing is playing tabletop role-playing games. And that is something, for the most part, we usually do in person with the people that we love. But like I said, this year has kept a lot of us apart. So if it weren't for the internet, we still wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, we've let's talk some tabletop.
Cool. So, yeah, I got a couple of shout outs to just general groups of people. Like shout out to a friend of mine, Luke, who's played on my TTRPG show Roll 4 as Soranus Moors, the Death God Paladin champion. Who invited me along to a one shot where I was like, oh, you know what? Like, if it's a one shot, I don't want to play. I don't want to play a monk. I really want to play a monk in like an actual campaign. So I'll play this one shot. I'll play a fighter. Like, I've wanted to play a fighter for a little while, and I don't think I'm going to get another opportunity. So I made this little halfling fighter, and he's my baby, and he's now level 6, and he's fucking fighting dragons and saving the world. And yeah, so shout out to Luke for inviting me along to that game. Also shout out to like Rob, Catherine, Beth, Alex, Rick, Luke. I don't think anybody else has guested on the show.
I don't think so, no.
For our time with Roll 4, which is still something I very much want to do, but because of scheduling.
Hopefully it's something we can bring back next year.
Yeah, Beth is a medical professional and she works shifts.
Saving lives, y'all.
Catherine has started like a totally different like career path and is super busy with that. But I would like to get back to Roll 4 at some point. And then also we started a little game, and it was kind of like this Wild West homebrew world, because I was like, what do people want to play? And people were like, Wild West. And we played 3 sessions, and then I was like, I don't like this. I can't do it. I'm bad at homebrew. Can we do something else, please? Can we do Curse of Strahd? So Mr. Kilted Cajun, our friends B, our friends Mark, and my sister, we started playing Curse of Strahd, which is a big fucking epic it's like the most iconic D&D adventure. It's fully the most iconic D&D adventure. You go to this place called Barovia, which is ruled over by this vampire lord called Strahd, and it's like a 1 to 11 adventure. It's a long adventure. We finished it in 5 weeks.
You're insane.
And on the back of that, launched Kilted Cajun's channel, where we are now playing Rime of the Frost Maiden, and some other games with some other people, aren't we, Rob?
Yes.
Let you sort of touch on that side of it and do your bit. I think that was a nice little segue.
Absolutely. So, hang on, we're talking about Friday's game, right?
Yeah, we'll do Friday, and then you can segue to your shit.
Yeah,
then.
Cool. So on top of those shout-outs from Josh, that are also very, very much from me as well. But yes, recently, over on the Kilted Cajun RPG channel, twitch.tv, go check them out. We have, or I have recently joined their Friday night game playing Tomb of Annihilation, Dungeons & Dragons 5th Ed, where I play a Wood Elf Paladin, Oath of the Ancients. And we are going through that campaign. And hell, man, I'm enjoying it so much. We're playing, obviously, with Kilted Cajun as our illustrious DM. SingularityJosh is there as well. We've got the awesome Prue, or Proopy Pants, who is an awesome role player. And, of course, Neve, Josh's sister, who is just dope as shit. And, yeah, we're just having a hell of a time. Exploring this crazy jungle and trying to get the undead out of there. I'm not a huge fan of Dungeons and Dragons. I've enjoyed it when I've played with certain people, and I've obviously enjoyed playing our time with Roll 4. That's not up for debate. But in general, it's not my favourite system. It's not my go-to. I wouldn't actively choose to play unless I knew the people or that sort of thing. And it's really nice to play a system that I'm not too fond of with people that are really awesome and really welcoming, and I just enjoy. So, yeah.
Shout out to the furbolgs, by the way. Like, the fucking
all
man,
fucking 3 of them soon, yeah.
all 3 of them. Well, yeah, like we are increasing in furbolg number. Like, yeah, that party dynamic for the Tomb game is just so much fun. It was like 2 elves and 2 furbolgs, and then one of the elves has gone away, and I fucking persuaded our fill-in B who's gonna come play another furbolg. And it's just gonna be fucking Keller on his own with 3 furbolgs.
Not looking forward to that. So yeah, so come along to the Kilted Cajun RPG channel every Friday. I mean, we're taking about a 2-week hiatus because of the holidays, but come January, January the 8th, thank you, Josh, we'll be there on the Kilted Cajun RPG Twitch channel, so make sure you're there, 7 p.m. GMT. Yeah, other than that, of course, I've got to shout out my homeboys and homegirls who play my home game, my Witcher tabletop role-playing game by Artel Saurian. Still loving that system so much, and that is our weekly home game and has been for the last, 2 years now,
2 years?
More or less, yeah, on and off. But yeah, it's been our main game. So shout out to Katie, Joe, Nathan, and our new player Glenn as well. So yeah, shout out to you guys.
That system looks a lot of fun, man.
It is, yeah. We need to play it. I need to get you into that game at some point. Because we were discussing having a little one-off at some point. So need to, when things are calmed down a bit, we shall play. But yeah, those guys, without you having that sort of stability in my life, especially the last couple of months, having that home game every week with you guys has been the best and has meant the world to me. So thank you. Literally couldn't get through any of what I'm going through at the moment without you guys. So yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
To those guys. Those guys are good people.
Absolutely. And dope role players. And yeah, just have the fucking best time. Have the best time every week. So yeah, shout out. So yeah, I think that's really rounds up our bests of 2020, Josh. Should we I
think so.
Should we briefly look forward to 2021?
Yeah, I have no idea what's coming out in 2021. I'm not fucking joking.
No, absolutely. It's the same. I
have no idea what games are coming out in 2021. I'm sure I'll be excited about something.
Same, absolutely. I mean more in terms of what from the gaming industry, I guess, and what in general are we looking forward to? Nothing, doesn't have to be anything specific. So, for example, I would really, really appreciate us to start looking at game development in a very different way going forward into 2021, where crunch no longer becomes mandatory and people can safely work in their place of work and not be sexually harassed or abused. That would be really fucking good. So just a better way of developing games.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That would be my wish as well. Shady, not like a more transparent process.
Yeah.
Harder scrutiny and harder scrutiny and more consequences for people that do shitty things.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking forward to just remembered I am looking very much forward to the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn next year, which is the only game that I have ever platinumed on the PlayStation. I fucking loved the first one, and I'm debating buying it again on PC and doing it all over again like a madman. But man, what a fucking yeah! I'm really looking forward to that title specifically.
Awesome. I don't actually know if it's coming out next year, but if it is, Final Fantasy 16, I would be absolutely looking forward to.
Is the second part of 7 meant to be coming out next year?
I don't think so. No, not as far as I'm aware. I don't think we've heard anything on it, to be honest. No idea. Haven't got a clue. It's been a weird year. Yeah, it's been a weird year.
Squeenix.
So, yeah, that's kind of it. And of course, more tabletop shenanigans.
more tabletop shenanigans for sure.
I think
I'm
in general that's been the best gaming thing of this year. I think just because you're
yeah,
connecting with people on such a level.
yeah, for sure. I'm also like I'm fairly certain as well that I'm going to be getting the other side of the table again next year, which I'm looking forward to. I'm I have plans to literally take people to hell. So
Shout out to those guys.
shout out to my addicts. But yeah, they're going to hell, literally going to the nine hells.
Wonderful. So, that I think is our show.
I think so as well. A
Perfect.
nice clean 90 minutes. We've done it.
Yeah, I know, right? Look at
Yes.
us. Especially for the
Professional.
first show back, you know, after a long hiatus. But yeah, really, really good. So yeah, thank you very much, each and every one of you, for watching, listening, however you're enjoying this show. So before we sort of get into more bits about the show, Josh, what do you do and where can we find you, please, sir?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at SingularityJosh. If you want to watch me sometimes play video games on Twitch, SingularityJosh. If you want to look at my musings on Twitter, SingularityJosh. If you want to see photos of my dog and my cats and stuff, Instagram, SingularityJosh. You can also find me a lot over at Kilton Cajun RPG, where I am playing as Zaffron on the Rime of Frostbane campaign, and as the Furbolg Druid Medarin on the Tomb of Annihilation campaign. That's me.
Awesome.
Everything on my under my desk has just collapsed on my foot. Fuck my life.
What a way to round up the show, Josh. So yes, obviously, if you're here, I am the Undead Gamer. You can find me on all social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Undead Gamer, gamer without the E. And of course, I'm a streamer here on twitch.tv/the Undead Gamer. I'm a variety streamer, and we stream as often as we can. Schedule at the moment is a bit all over the place, but we will get there. At the moment, we are streaming Bloodborne, The Sinking City, and a little bit of Grim Fandango. And, just keep your eyes peeled for some further stuff in the future as developments are happening. It's trying to get a PC sorted. So as soon as that's up, shenanigans will ensue. But like we said, also you can find me every Friday night over at the Kilted Cajun RPG channel, where I play Keller Kiel, the Wood Elf Paladin, who has taken up the Oath of the Ancients in our Tomb of Annihilation campaign. As for the podcast, you can find us everywhere. Of course, if you've missed the live show, don't worry. You can catch the VOD at some point this week, probably the weekend, a little bit later than we normally do, on YouTube, youtube.com/theundeadgamer. But if you prefer to just listen to the show, that's absolutely fine. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most podcasting platforms out there. So UndeadGamingCast, and you can find us, all our previous shows, and listen as and when you please for free. So go and do the thing. The next podcast will probably be
the 26th of January.
26th of January 2021. But before then, hopefully we'll get out that bonus level talking specifically about Cyberpunk 2077 and CD Projekt Red. So stay tuned for that.
Before we sign off, I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays. I wish everybody a happy and safe new year. And I would also like to thank everybody that has come back out, supported like Rob and myself on all the platforms. You guys rule. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We couldn't do the show without you. So thank you very much for tuning in, listening, watching, however you're consuming this podcast. And have a very safe, happy holidays and New Year. Love to you all. And we'll catch you in 2021. Bye-bye.
Bye.